Cottard said far more often, "I shall see him Wednesday at the Verdurins," than "I shall see him on Tuesday at the Academy." He spoke too of the Wednesdays as of an engagement equally important and inevitable. But Cottard was one of those people, little sought after, who make it as imperious a duty to respond to an invitation as if such invitations were orders, like a military or judicial summons. It required a call from a very important patient to make him fail the Verdurins on a Wednesday, the importance depending moreover rather upon the rank of the patient than upon the gravity of his complaint. For Cottard, excellent fellow as he was, would forego the delights of a Wednesday not for a workman who had had a stroke, but for a minister's cold. Even then, he would say to his wife, "Make my apologies to Madame Verdurin. Tell her that I shall be coming later on." His Excellency might really have chosen some other day to catch cold. One Wednesday, their old cook having opened a vein in her arm, Cottard, already in his dinner jacket to go to the Verdurins, had shrugged his shoulders when his wife had timidly inquired whether he could not bandage the cut. "Of course I can't, Leontine," he had groaned. "Can't you see I've got my white waistcoat on?" So as not to annoy her husband, Madame Cottard had sent post-haste for his chief dresser. He, to save time, had taken a cab, with the result that his carriage entering the courtyard just as Cottard's was emerging to take him to the Verdurins, 5 minutes had been wasted in backing to let one another pass. Madame Cottard was worried that the dresser should see his master in evening clothes. Cottard sat cursing the delay, from remorse perhaps, and started off in a villainous temper which it took all the Wednesday's pleasure to dispel. If one of Cottard's patients were to ask him, "Do you ever see the Guermantes?" it was with the utmost sincerity that the professor would reply, "Perhaps not actually the Guermantes, I can't be certain, but I meet all those people at the house of some friends of mine. You must of course have heard of the Verdurins, they know everybody. Besides, they certainly are not people who've come down in the world. They've got the goods all right. It is generally estimated that Madame Verdurin is worth 35 million. Gad, 35 million, that's a pretty figure. And so she doesn't make 2 bites at a cherry. You mentioned the Duchesse de Guermantes. Let me explain the difference. Madame Verdurin is a great lady. The Duchesse de Guermantes is probably a nobody. You see the distinction, of course. In any case, whether the Guermantes go to Madame Verdurin's or not, she entertains all the very best people. The de Cherbatovs, the de Forchevilles, et tutti quanti, people of the highest flight, all the nobility of France and Navarre, with whom you would see me conversing as man to man. Of course, those sort of people are only too glad to meet the princes of science," he added, with a smile of fatuous conceit, brought to his lips by his proud satisfaction, not so much that the expression formerly reserved for men like Poutin and Charcot should now be applicable to himself, as that he knew at last how to employ all these expressions that were authorized by custom, and after a long course of study had learned them by heart. And so, after mentioning to me Princess Sherbatov as one of the people who went to Madame Verdurin's, Cottard added with a wink, "That gives you an idea of the style of the house, if you see what I mean." He meant that it was the very height of fashion. Now, to entertain a Russian lady who knew nobody but the Grand Duchess Eudoxie was not fashionable at all. But Princess Sherbatov might not have known even her. It would in no way have diminished Cottard's estimate of the supreme elegance of the Verdurin salon or his joy at being invited there. The splendor that seems to us to invest the people whose houses we visit is no more intrinsic than that of kings and queens on the stage, in dressing whom it is useless for a producer to spend hundreds and thousands of francs in purchasing authentic costumes and real jewels, when a great designer will procure a far more sumptuous impression by focusing a ray of light on a doublet of coarse cloth, studded with lumps of glass and on a cloak of paper. A man may have spent his life among the great ones of the earth, who to him have been merely boring relatives or tiresome acquaintances, because a familiarity engendered in the cradle had stripped them of all distinction in his eyes. The same man, on the other hand, need only have been led by some chance to mix with the most obscure people for innumerable Cottards to be permanently dazzled by the ladies of title, whose drawing rooms they imagined as the centres of aristocratic elegance, ladies who were not even what Madame de Villeparisis and her friends were, great ladies fallen from their greatness, whom the aristocracy that had been brought up with them no longer visited. No, those whose friendship has been the pride of so many men, if these men were to publish their memoirs and to give the names of those women and of the other women who came to their parties, Madame de Cambremer would be no more able than Madame de Guermantes to identify them.